Welcome to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss any more shocking and captivating stories. Enjoy watching. It was late on a Friday evening when the thoughts in Daniel's mind started to twist in unfamiliar ways. The neon lights of the karaoke bar flashed in the distance as he parked his car and made his way inside. He was excited. After a busy week of work, all he wanted was to relax and spend time with his wife Lydia. Karaoke was her thing. She loved to sing, to be in the spotlight, surrounded by friends, and they'd often go to places like this together to unwind. However, something was off tonight. When Daniel entered the bar, he immediately noticed that Lydia was not at their usual table, the one in the far corner near the stage. He'd been texting her all evening, asking what time she'd be done and if she wanted to meet up for a drink. No answer. He called once, no answer. He didn't think too much about it. Lydia had a habit of getting lost in the moment when she was singing. But when he arrived and asked the bartender where she was, he was given a strange response. "Oh, she's in the other room tonight," the bartender said, a half smile curling up his lips. "The other room?" Daniel repeated, confused. "I thought she was here." "She's with her friends in the VIP karaoke lounge," the bartender explained with a knowing glance. "Private room, you know." A sense of discomfort crawled up Daniel's spine, but he brushed it off. Lydia had a few close friends, but this didn't feel like her usual style. She never cared for VP rooms, or anything that felt too exclusive. She liked to be with him, to enjoy the night in the open, laughing and singing together. Daniel thanked the bartender and made his way to the back of the bar, following the narrow hallway toward the VIP lounge. His thoughts were spinning, and the closer he got to the room, the more unsettled he felt. He reached the door and hesitated for a moment. The sounds of laughter and music were louder now, blending into a cacophony of voices and upbeat tunes. He pushed the door open, expecting to see Lydia at the center of it all, laughing with friends, but instead his heart stopped in his chest. There she was, Lydia, but not alone. She was standing with a man, her hand on his arm, her face flushed with excitement as they shared an intimate conversation. Lydia was smiling, her eyes sparkling in a way that Daniel had never seen before. The man was tall, with broad shoulders, dark hair, and an air of confidence that made Daniel feel small in comparison. He wasn't someone Daniel recognized. Was he a new friend? A friend of a friend? But there was something in the way Lydia leaned toward him, her laugh just a little too soft, too flirtatious. Daniel stood frozen, his mind racing. Before he could make sense of it, the man glanced at the door and saw him standing there. His smile faltered for a split second, and then, as if it were perfectly normal, the man gave Daniel a friendly nod. Lydia, however, seemed to be caught off guard.
"Oh, Daniel!"
Lydia's voice trailed off, her eyes widening slightly as she pushed the man's arm away. "I didn't know you were here already." Daniel's heart sank. Her reaction, or rather the lack of surprise, hit him harder than anything else. "What's going on here?" Daniel asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes darting between her and the man. "Who is this?" Lydia hesitated, the smile slipping from her face. The man seemed to sense the tension and quickly excused himself, slipping away to the side of the room. Lydia turned to Daniel, her expression now a mixture of guilt and confusion. "It's not what you think, Daniel." What do you mean, it's not what I think?" Daniel cut her off, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "Why are you here with him? Why didn't you tell me about this?" Lydia's gaze dropped to the floor, and she shifted uneasily on her feet. "I didn't think it would be a big deal. He's just a friend, Daniel. We were talking, just singing, having fun." Daniel's mind screamed. A friend. Just singing. But deep down, he knew something wasn't adding up. Lydia's words weren't adding up. "Just a friend, huh?" Daniel repeated, his voice steady, but the anger was growing inside him. "And you didn't think it was worth mentioning?" Lydia looked up at him, her eyes now filled with a hint of panic. "I didn't want to make it a thing, okay? I didn't think it mattered." Daniel stood there, staring at her, unable to process what was happening. This wasn't like her. Something about her whole demeanor felt off, too defensive, too rehearsed. His mind began to churn with thoughts, doubts creeping in like shadows. "I don't know what to think right now," Daniel muttered, his voice hoarse. "I need to go." Without waiting for a response, Daniel turned and left the room, his mind a blur. He could hear Lydia's voice calling after him, but it felt distant, like it was coming from somewhere far away. Outside, Daniel leaned against the brick wall of the building, taking deep breaths. His heart was pounding. He felt dizzy. Was it nothing? Was he overreacting? Or had he just witnessed something he wasn't supposed to see? He had no answers, only questions, and that's when the doubt took root. The following days were filled with a strange, heavy silence between Daniel and Lydia. The night at the karaoke bar replayed in his mind over and over. He couldn't shake the image of Lydia standing so close to that man, the easy chemistry between them that felt too natural, too intimate. What was it? Was it something he had missed for a long time? He tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, to believe her words. It's not what you think. But with every passing hour, a knot in his stomach twisted tighter. Lydia had always been open and affectionate, but lately, there was a growing distance between them. Conversations that once flowed easily now felt awkward, like they were strangers living under the same roof. Daniel decided to wait for her to bring it up, but she never did. It was as though the karaoke incident had never happened, as though they could simply pretend it was normal for her to be in a private room with some random guy. He couldn't do that. On the third day after the karaoke bar incident, Daniel began snooping. He hated the idea, hated himself for feeling desperate enough to dig into her personal life, but something inside told him he needed to know more. He couldn't keep living like this, pretending everything was okay. He needed answers. It started with her phone. He knew Lydia's passcode. It wasn't that hard to figure out. She was the kind of person who would leave her phone lying around, open to whoever walked by. Her texts, messages, and social media accounts were all accessible if you knew where to look. He picked up the phone while Lydia was in the shower, his hands shaking as he unlocked it. He told himself he wouldn't find anything. He was just checking. But when the screen lit up with a series of messages between Lydia and the man from the karaoke bar, a sickening sense of dread washed over him. The messages were casual at first. A few comments about the songs they'd sung, playful banter and some inside jokes, but as he scrolled down, the tone shifted. It became more personal, more flirtatious. They were talking about meeting up again soon, and Lydia had even sent him a few pictures, selfies, clearly taken at moments when she thought Daniel wasn't watching. His heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't breathe. Every word felt like a slap, a confirmation of what he had feared. She was seeing him again, behind his back. His mind raced. He wanted to confront her right away, but something held him back. He needed more. He needed proof that couldn't be denied. He scrolled through more messages, his stomach sinking deeper with each new revelation. There was one message in particular that hit him like a punch to the gut. Lydia had told the man she missed him, that she couldn't wait to see him again. And the man had responded with something that chilled him to his core. I can't stop thinking about you. It feels like we were meant to be together. Daniel's fingers trembled as he put the phone down, his mind reeling. He felt betrayed, humiliated. But more than that, he felt the crushing weight of all the lies that had been building between them. Everything Lydia had said in the past few days about the karaoke bar, about it being nothing. It was all a lie. She was cheating on him. His chest felt tight, and for a moment he thought he might collapse. His mind screamed at him to confront her, but he couldn't. Not yet. He needed to be sure. He needed to make sure that everything he'd found was real, that it wasn't just some twisted misunderstanding. He spent the next few days in a haze, watching Lydia like a hawk, trying to catch her in the act. He wasn't stupid. He knew something had changed between them, but he couldn't place exactly when it had all started. The little lies, the small dismissals, the distance. He knew now that the karaoke incident was just the tip of the iceberg. The more he watched her, the more he noticed. Lydia had become secretive. Her phone was always glued to her hand. She'd often slip away for errands, without telling him where she was going. When she came back, there was always something off about her. Too many excuses, too many evasions. Daniel's worst fears were confirmed when he came home early from work one afternoon. He had planned to catch her red-handed, but what he saw made his blood run cold. Lydia was in the living room, sitting on the couch, laughing as she typed something on her phone. Then, just as she sent a message, she glanced up and saw Daniel standing in the doorway. The smile on her face faltered, and for the first time in days, he saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes. She quickly closed her phone, but Daniel had seen enough. The way she reacted, it was as though she knew she had been caught. "Who are you talking to?" Daniel asked, his voice sharp and accusing. Lydia hesitated for a moment, then shook her head, her face flushing. "It's nothing, just a friend from work." "A friend?" Daniel repeated, his tone dripping with disbelief. "Just a friend who makes you smile like that?" She looked at him, her lips pressed tightly together, as if weighing her words carefully. "I don't know what you want from me, Daniel. It's not like that." Daniel's frustration reached a boiling point. He couldn't take it anymore. "Then what is it like, Lydia? Because I know something's going on. I know you're seeing him. I know you're lying to me." Lydia's eyes widened, and she quickly stood up, her face turning pale. "You're crazy. What are you talking about?" "Don't lie to me," Daniel snapped. "I saw the messages. I saw what you've been saying to him. Lydia froze, her face draining of color. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The truth was out now, and Daniel wasn't about to let her backtrack. Who is he? Lydia, Daniel demanded. Who is he, and how long has this been going on? She sat back down, tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry. It was stupid. It was just one moment of weakness. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Daniel stood motionless, his heart shattering with every word. One moment of weakness. He had given her everything, his trust, his love, and she had thrown it all away for a man she barely knew. The silence that followed was suffocating. Daniel couldn't look at her anymore. All the love he had felt for Lydia seemed to evaporate in an instant, replaced by a deep, gnawing emptiness. The days following Lydia's confession felt like they dragged on forever, each one heavier than the last. Daniel barely spoke to her. Every time their eyes met, he saw the guilt in hers, but it wasn't enough to bridge the chasm between them. He couldn't reconcile the woman he had loved with the one who had betrayed him. He had been living in a lie, and every shred of trust he had given her now lay shattered at his feet. Lydia had tried to explain herself over and over. She apologized, said it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. But Daniel couldn't hear it anymore. The words were hollow. A mistake. It didn't mean anything. It all sounded like an excuse. She had made a choice, and it wasn't him. He couldn't escape the feeling that he had been a fool. A fool to trust her so completely, a fool to believe in their relationship when all the signs had been there. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the distance that had been growing between them for months. He'd been blind, too trusting. It hurt too much to admit, but he knew now that he had missed all the warning signs. On the fourth day after the confrontation, Daniel couldn't stand it anymore. He had to face her, to ask the questions that had been eating at him since the moment he had walked into that karaoke room and found her with him. It was late in the evening, and they sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Lydia had been quiet all day, avoiding his gaze, but she knew this conversation was inevitable. Daniel wasn't going to let it go until he had real answers. Who is he? Daniel asked, his voice sharp but steady, the frustration in his chest palpable. The man from Karaoke. What's his name? Lydia flinched but didn't look away. His name is Jack, she muttered, her fingers fiddling nervously with the edge of her sleeve. He's someone I met a while ago. We were just having fun, Daniel. Fun. Daniel repeated bitterly. Is that what you call it? Lydia's eyes flickered to the side. She took a deep breath, as if trying to find the right words. It wasn't supposed to happen, okay? At first, I thought it was just a flirtation, nothing serious. But over time, things got complicated. I know it's wrong, and I never meant for it to go this far. But I started to feel, I don't know, things were different with him. Daniel's heart twisted at the words, but something else stirred in him too, something darker. He couldn't stop the questions, the need for the full truth. He had been given so many half-truths already, and they never felt like enough. He needed to know. Complicated, he repeated, his eyes narrowing. How long has this been going on? How long have you been seeing him behind my back? Lydia's voice quivered as she spoke. I didn't want to hurt you, Daniel. It started about 6 months ago. At first, it was nothing. Just talking, hanging out a little. But over time it became more. I got caught up in it. I didn't know how to stop. 6 months. That's how long this had been going on, right under his nose. He had been blind to it for so long. It was a cold, hard fact that stung every inch of his being. 6 months of betrayal. 6 months. Daniel echoed in disbelief. And you never thought to tell me. Never thought I'd find out. Lydia looked down, tears pooling in her eyes. She nodded, but the shame in her expression wasn't enough to ease the anger inside Daniel. She had betrayed him, not just physically, but emotionally too. He had been nothing but loyal, giving her every ounce of trust he had, and she had tossed it aside like it meant nothing. I'm sorry, Daniel. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't know what to do. I thought I could keep it separate, that I could still love you and do this on the side. Daniel shook his head in disbelief. That's not how it works, Lydia. You don't get to do that. You don't get to keep a secret life and expect me to be okay with it. The silence in the room was suffocating. Daniel's chest ached with the weight of the betrayal, but the anger was starting to swell again, this time not just at Lydia but at himself. How could he have been so blind? How could he not have seen it? Lydia reached across the table, her hand trembling, but Daniel pulled away instinctively. Daniel, please. Don't walk away from me. I'm sorry. Please. Daniel stood up, his fists clenched at his sides. Sorry, he repeated bitterly. That's all you've got. You don't get to apologize and make everything better. You've ruined everything. He turned away, pacing toward the door. He needed space. He couldn't stand the sight of her anymore, couldn't bear to hear her voice anymore. All he wanted was to escape from the suffocating pain. Before he left, he glanced back at Lydia, her tear-streaked face looking up at him, her hands folded in her lap like she was waiting for him to take her back. "Do you even love me anymore?" he asked suddenly, the words leaving his mouth before he could stop them. Lydia looked up at him, the truth written across her face. "I don't know, Daniel," she whispered. "I wish I did. I really do." Daniel didn't say anything else. He just walked out of the room, the door clicking shut behind him. Daniel didn't know how long he had been walking around the block, his mind a whirlwind of rage and confusion. The cool night air did nothing to soothe the fire burning inside him. Every step felt like it carried him further away from the life he had shared with Lydia, the life that now felt like a lie. He had to make a decision. He couldn't keep going like this, stuck in limbo, caught between wanting answers and knowing that no explanation would ever make it okay. The trust, once so strong between them, was gone, and with it, any hope of salvaging their marriage. The truth of Lydia's betrayal weighed heavily on him. He had spent the last few days replaying everything in his head. Every moment he had thought was perfect. Every time he had laughed with her, held her, and felt secure in their future. It all seemed like a cruel joke now. The way she had looked at him when she thought he wasn't watching, the moments when he had trusted her completely, all of it turned out to be part of the betrayal. His mind kept flashing back to the man from the karaoke bar, Jack. What was it about him that had made Lydia so different? What had he given her that Daniel hadn't? The thought gnawed at him, but it wasn't the answers he was seeking anymore. It was the finality, the decision to move on. Daniel had tried to hold on. He had tried to believe in Lydia's words, her excuses, her promises to change. But he knew better now. His gut told him that the woman he had married, the woman he thought he knew, was someone entirely different. When he returned to the apartment, Lydia was still there, sitting in the same spot at the kitchen table. She hadn't moved. Her eyes, red and swollen from crying, followed him as he entered. The silence between them was deafening. The air was thick with the weight of unspoken words. "I've made up my mind," Daniel said, his voice cold but resolute. He didn't look at her directly. He couldn't. He couldn't bear to see the desperation in her eyes any longer. Lydia stood up, her hands trembling as she reached for him. "Please, Daniel, don't leave me. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. We can fix this. Just give me another chance." Daniel's breath hitched for a moment, but he quickly pushed the feelings of guilt away. "She doesn't deserve your pity, not anymore." He met her gaze for the first time since their conversation earlier. His heart ached, but there was no turning back. "You broke me, Lydia," he said, his voice cracking just slightly. "I don't know who you are anymore. I don't know if I ever did." Lydia's face crumpled. She took a step toward him, but Daniel stepped back, instinctively pulling away. "I don't think I can forgive you for this," he said softly. "You chose someone else. You made a choice to betray me, to lie to me, and I can't live with that. I deserve better than this." Her tears fell harder now, and she clutched at her chest. "Please, Daniel, I never wanted this. I love you. I've always loved you." But Daniel wasn't moved. He couldn't be. All he could see in his mind were the messages on her phone, the intimate words she had exchanged with Jack, and the way she had lied to his face. "I thought I could get past it," he continued, voice firm, though his heart was breaking inside. "I really did. But I've realized something. I can't live in a relationship built on lies. I can't keep pretending that this didn't happen, that it doesn't matter." Lydia was silent for a moment, as though absorbing what he had said. Then she whispered, "So that's it? You're just going to walk away, just like that?" Daniel sighed deeply. "I don't know what else to do. It's broken, and I can't keep trying to fix something that's beyond repair." Lydia collapsed back into the chair, her face buried in her hands. Daniel stood there watching her. His emotions were a storm of anger, sadness, and numbness, but at the center of it all, there was a strange clarity. The decision had been made. He couldn't go back. He turned toward the door, but before he left, he paused. "I'll be gone tomorrow," he said, his back to her. "I've already arranged everything. The lawyer will be in touch." Lydia didn't respond. She didn't have to. She knew as well as he did that this was the end. The next few days were a blur. Daniel moved his things out of the apartment, but there was no drama, no shouting or arguments. Everything felt oddly quiet. The tension between him and Lydia had been replaced with an eerie calm, as if their lives had been reduced to a series of formalities. There was no more fighting, no more pretending. But there was also no more love. The divorce papers came a week later, and Daniel signed them without hesitation. It was final. It was over. He didn't tell anyone about the details of what happened. He didn't need to. His friends knew something was wrong when he stopped coming around, when he became distant, and when he finally told them he and Lydia had separated. They didn't press for details. They didn't need to. They could see the change in him. But Daniel wasn't bitter. He wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way he had been in the beginning. His anger had faded into something else, emptiness, maybe, or just exhaustion from carrying around the weight of a broken heart for too long. The only thing he felt now was relief. The kind of relief you feel when you let go of something you've been holding on to for too long, something that no longer serves you. And then, about a month after the divorce was finalized, Daniel ran into Jack. It was in a coffee shop, early on a Sunday morning, just as Daniel was sitting down with his coffee. Jack was standing by the counter, looking as confident as ever. He didn't seem to recognize Daniel at first, but when their eyes met there was a moment of hesitation, like he knew exactly who Daniel was. "Hey," Jack said, his voice friendly but guarded. Daniel gave him a small nod, not wanting to engage. He had no reason to hate the man anymore. Jack had been honest about what he wanted, even if it had cost Daniel everything. "Hey," Daniel replied, his voice neutral. For a second, the tension between them was palpable. But then Jack smiled, offering a half-hearted apology. "Look, man, I'm sorry. About everything that went down. I didn't mean to hurt you, Lydia. She was, well, you know." Daniel didn't say anything for a moment, just stared at Jack. He had expected this moment to feel like some kind of victory, but instead it felt hollow. "Yeah," Daniel finally said, standing up and grabbing his cup of coffee. "I do know." With that, he turned and walked out of the coffee shop, leaving the past behind him once and for all, the end.